thank you for being with us for this important conversation on future-proofing the Nilgiris, balancing ecology, economy, and community. I'm Shobana Chandrashekar, and I'm honored to moderate today's panel, which is comprised of citizens of the NVR. So the Nilgiris is at a crossroads, as we can all agree, and different sectors of the Nilgiris, tourism, agriculture, trade, architecture, they're all evolving. While we're in the middle of what this morning we heard about, the triple planetary crisis, right? Biodiversity loss, which is not that visible, climate change that all of us are starting to feel, and pollution, air, water, soil, plastic, which is all around us. So we're here today to explore how this region and the people who live here can thrive without harming the fragile ecosystem that we all depend on, and without losing what makes this place so special. So we have an exceptional panel of people here today with us who come from very different fields: agriculture, tea manufacturing, tourism, architecture and building, but they all share one common ground, which is a deep connection to this land and to its people. So they will be sharing both their challenges and real solutions that they have tried and tested in the Nilgiris and outside. I'll introduce them one by one as we get into our discussion. So let's start with the soil, because without healthy soil, our agriculture, our tea, our forests, our animals, our buildings, and of course, we all feel the impact. So first we have with us Mr. Mahesh Melvin. Mahesh has been pioneering natural farming methods that restore soil health. He's the secretary of the Biodynamic Association of India, which is based in Bangalore, and he's involved in training, consultancy, and marketing. He also has a bachelor's degree in ecology and environmental science and over 28 years of experience in sustainable agriculture practices. He also worked for the Earth Trust in the Nilgiris about 20 years ago, when he provided training on organic farming to hundreds of farmers in about 24 villages in the Nilgiris. He collaborates with the horticulture department and with NGOs to promote sustainable agriculture practices. On a more personal level, he's helping my mother convert her farm to an organic farm. So that's how I know him. Mahesh, your work is rooted in the land itself, right? So what changes have you seen in the soil, the Nilgiris soil, and in farming patterns over the last 28 years that you've been working in this space? And also, I'm sorry for my ignorance, but what exactly is biodynamic farming? I've heard of organic farming, but what is that biodynamic farming? And do you think it's economically viable for the average small farmer? Unlike my mother, who has another profession to fall back upon, is it viable for the average small farmer to adopt these methods, and what incentives could help?
Good evening, everyone. The question is, I'm just start with a negative thing. Two things we lost. One is the topsoil gone. Another one is the grassland is gone. And there's no possibility of farming itself. And how to think about organic farming is a big challenge, actually. First thing is all the grassland gone, the cows have gone. There's no cows, there's no cattle. I know the conflict between animal and human is a big challenge. We'll be going for organic farming or inorganic farming or whatever farming. So that's the biggest challenge right now. And now only the government is slowly looking into this aspect. And now, after 20 years of struggle and in the hard work, I know many awareness programs and things like that. Now the government is looking at and making a small policy on organic farming, and they started allocating a certain amount of their budget for Nilgiri farmers. So I think only the government involves, the forest department and other department involves, then it is a viable and possible farming and a possible activity. But in that case, how you asked how organic farming is possible. When inorganic farming itself is impossible thing. And organic is biggest challenge, and a lot of challenges: pest management, disease management, and the animal problems, and the soil erosion. All these things are highly challenging, and still we are struggling, and still we are working on it and making little by little. We have about 63 farmers in Nilgiris working on organic farming, and slowly we're developing a small market in locally as well as in the other places in Coimbatore and Chennai, other places. So slowly picking up, but I'm not. I cannot say 100% assure that organic farming is successful, but it is possible when all the departments and all the other aspects in environmental and the biodiversity, everything is joined together, then it is possible.
So Bharath, after a 15-year corporate career with IBM, he returned to his roots as a fourth-generation tea farmer, taking over his family-owned Hubby Farms near Uti. So for the past 8 years, he's been deeply involved in the daily life of the plantation. And about 5 years ago, he made a conscious shift towards natural tea farming. Since then, he's been crafting small batch handmade teas that embody the unique character of the soil, the climate, and the values of his estate. And having refined his processes over the last 3 years, he's now building a brand that brings these artisanal teas to an audience that values quality and sustainability. So, Bharath, when we were chatting earlier outside, and I asked you about whether natural tea farming was possible for the average small farmer, you said that it wasn't something that that was very easy to do. So, can you please share with us your lessons over the past 8 years? What you have done to kind of stick on to your path, and anything else you'd like to share?
As Shobana mentioned, it was like 8 years back where I decided to get into tea farming. And then it wasn't actually a big, there was a big challenge for me, because whenever we talk about tea, there's always this Q and Q. One is the quality and one is the quantity. Because whenever I go interact with the small farmers, they keep asking, the first thing they keep asking is, what is the volume that you harvest in a year? Right? So I wanted to do some, come out of this volume-based harvest and, get into quality-based harvest. So that's the first thing I did. And I think if it is an inorganic farming, I think we can still, it is not a question of survival. I think we can do the wonders in tea, in fact, because I've seen that and, because I've experienced it, and that's possible. But later, after 2 years, I moved into natural farming, and that was my choice. And, the inspiration is like, there are many people. I wanted to do natural farming, and that is viable. As I said, natural farming is viable. I don't do any, it's only tea. I don't do any vegetable cultivation. And if you look at natural farming, we also need to see, natural farming is just in start. But if you look at the whole package, we will also need to see what best we can do with the tea leaves. And, we need to build a brand, and we need to start marketing the tea. So that's when I decided that, I will have to make my own tea. And I started, for the last 3 years, I've been making handmade teas, which is, again, it's a natural process. I don't use any machines, and, it's completely natural. And since the farm is natural and the process is natural, and now I've started building a brand. And as Shobana mentioned, whether it's sustainable or it's feasible, for now, I don't think it is. For now, it's a challenge, because you need to give some time to build a brand, and to come up with a product, and also to build a brand, and then place the brand in the market, and then see if it is going to sell, or what challenges after you placing a brand in the market. Then I think only then you'll get to know whether it's feasible or not. Because I've given myself of saying about 3 years time. In this 3 years, I've done a little of hand rolled teas, and I've seen that in the market there's a good demand for the handmade teas, and also I built a brand, and I'm very soon I'll be launching the brand in the market. So personally, if you're going to ask me if this is feasible, for now it is not, but I think in the future, when you have built a brand and when you're going to place it in the market, when you have it in the market, I think that's possible.
Okay, moving down to Senthil Kumar. Senthil has over 20 years of experience in the tea industry. He actively manages his family-owned plantations and tea factories under the IM Group name. He's also been serving as the chairman of the Connaught Tea Trade Association for the past 3 years, which oversees the auction system through which all produce which is manufactured by tea factories in the Nilgiris is marketed. So this makes him a key figure in the industry. And yes, he sees how global markets shape what happens here locally. So Senthil, over the past few decades, labor deficits and market pressures have been pushing us towards quick profits at the expense of our soil and tea flavor quality. We've also seen the decline of tea prices leading to the conversion of what we all talk about all the time, a conversion of tea estates to real estate. So people are pushed towards short-term, high-return ventures like land sales, and this has been eroding our natural and our cultural assets. This morning, we heard about how mid-elevation tea plantations have wiped out our rainforests, right? And how we should roll back. But I don't even know if we'll have time to roll back, because now it looks like tea plantations will soon be wiped out by real estate development. So if you could future-proof the Nilgiri tea industry with one big reform, whether it's policy, pricing, or technique, what would you choose and why? And also a little more about the auction system and what you've been doing as the president.
Good evening, all. I'd like to say, first of all, tea is not classified as an agriculture crop. It's classified as a cash crop. So the support from the government side is not going to be there, because the government is more keen on keeping the prices low so that the inflations are low. So as it is, the government lets the market decide what the price of tea is based on supply and demand. So over the years, we have seen tea prices go up and down. So when it's gone up, people have found it, like a bonus on the prices. Rest of the time, they're leading an average life, and when the prices drop, they're literally crying out. So over the years, this has happened many times, which has literally made every farmer feel that I'm struggling. So when earlier education was a lot more cheaper compared to what it is now. So to face those expenses, what they're earning from the tea crop is not sufficient. So eventually they have got their children educated and felt that I have struggled. Why should my children struggle? So they have somehow sent them away from the district to find better jobs. And that's the fact at the moment. Most of the people in the Nilgiris who grew up here are literally working outside the Nilgiris, and they visit Nilgiris probably once or twice a year. So the next generation of farmers are missing. So, which accounts to labor shortage, because we had probably 65,000 small growers. The number stays on record till date as 65,000, but I doubt there are 65,000 small growers. So the area under cultivation has not come down. In probably around 90s, the government was literally forcing everybody, or literally motivating everybody to convert from agriculture to tea. Most of the people had land which was commercial forests, which they converted to tea. The area has expanded in the 90s with the development of newer clones which had more yields and all that. So eventually, the area under cultivation went up in tea. Subsequently, what happened when the labor shortages come, the kind of crop which is being harvested, literally not able to manage it at the moment. Generally, even our climate pattern was such that we had a crop situation where in the lean season, that is the winter season, January, where the temperatures drop, you had a crop of probably, I'm just giving you some figures for assumption, 1,000 kilos of tea you could harvest. The rest of the year, we could harvest around 2,000 kilos. And when we have rainfall, that is between June, July, and September, October, we would produce around 3,000 kilos. So the ratio was 1 to 3. But today that ratio has gone out of way because of the drastic climate change. Moreover, earlier you had people who knew about tea. Today, that level of education has not passed on to the next generation. So they are not aware on how to manage the tea estates they have. So they lack the expertise on cultivation, which has again led to the ratio of that 1 to 3 being distributed even further. So now it is like 1, and on the other end it is like 7, 8. So there's a huge disparity, and there's the horticulture department for the agriculture, but for tea there's nothing really who can really give the farmer the input. So eventually the manure shop, the guy who sells the medicines and the manure becomes the coach. He gives them the advice, okay, add a little more manure into the produce. So literally it has even caused the soil so much of damage, and the disparity in the yield has gone haywire. So if we have to probably we'll have to scale down our area under cultivation and focus on quality and the price rather than quantity. So this is one part I can say. Probably we'll discuss further.
Our next panelist is Venky Channaraj, who has built a successful network of homestays in Kotagiri and one in Ooty, while keeping community well-being at the heart of his business. So Venkatesh studied in Ooty, graduated from Texas and then from the Indian School of Business, and he worked with companies in the US before pivoting to a career in travel. He's worked for several years with Make My Trip and Holiday IQ, and worked on several destination marketing campaigns with both domestic and international tourism boards. He's also the co-founder of Get Set Yo, travel startup. So Venky, my question for you is, which all of us have, I mean, there's so much, there are strong opinions when it comes to tourism in the Nilgiris, right? Tourism brings in a lot of income. I mean, not a lot of income, but it's one of the large income bearers of the Nilgiris, but it also strains our resources, and it has a huge impact on, as we've all seen, housing costs, even the availability of housing, because almost every other home is being converted into a homestay. And also living conditions for the locals, because there are no residential areas that are left untouched. So how do you draw on your global tourism experience to shape your businesses, to strengthen the local community rather than to have a negative impact on it? And also, is it possible, do you think, to convince property owners that slower, eco-conscious tourism can be more rewarding than rapid expansion and maybe, going big?
Yeah, hi. Good evening, everyone. So to start on a lighter note, right? So I've had the unique opportunity of having lived in Ooty, Katy, Kuno, now Kotagiri, and I even spent a month in Masnagudi. Okay, so the easy answer is move to Kotagiri. It's the blue zone that nobody's talking about. It was beautiful this morning, 20 degrees, blue skies. So if Ooty is pain, you can always consider Kotagiri. Anyway, to get back onto a serious note, right? See, in a global context, I'll just give you a small statistic. Booking.com, $200 billion company, 40% of their revenues come from what we call alternative accommodations, which is literally homestays, okay? 40%. And a stark contrast, let's look at India as a market, right? In terms of hotel supply, there was a joke at some point that all the organized hotel rooms in India put together would be the same as the number of hotel rooms in a city like Las Vegas or New York, okay? Of course, here and there, but you get the point, right? And then you look at India's population versus like a Western economy, right? So where is the answer? The answer is, alternative accommodations, homestays. That's how we can cater to the large number of visitors that we have in India, right? And there's only one Nilgiris, right, for all of Tamil Nadu and southern India. So that is just the lay of the land, right? So homestays are here to stay, and just look at it like I have a heritage homestay in Ooty. My previous tenant Malika is also here. So from a social impact standpoint, I would look at it. Okay, do I rent it to one person who enjoys my heritage homestay, or do we give it to 300 people who can experience my homestay over the next year, right? The answer again is very clear, right? So the every asset owner is going to look to tap the economic opportunity. That's the highest. And we live in Tamil Nadu and not Kerala, so we can't go socialistic, right? So the answer really is, right? A lot of you migrated for a reason, right? So the answer really is, how do Western economies handle this, right? So if it's a government job, I know a lot of people have a hard time finding housing. There should be a wage adjustment, cost of living index that should be much higher for Ooty. If you're a private entrepreneur, you'll have to make sure you solve for housing at a local level. So the larger problem is there are no approvals. There's no housing capacity being created, right? So we have to move to the villages. The villages are really nice to live in. Now I've moved to a village, called Kerala. Life is just as good as in Ooty, right? So, people have to be open to sort of see these arbitrages and look for opportunities to move out, right? And so the homestay, just in terms of, that whole ecological balance, community, sustainability, and so on, I think the homestays fit in beautifully, right? So if you look at, I worked in Flipkart for some time, right? And I was there, I was kind of surprised to know that the entire company worked on one initiative, which was how do we get through the big billion day, which you would have all shopped at, right? An inordinate amount of work went into planning for those 5 days, right? So Ooty's problem is similar, right? The tourist season, it's all concentrated, everything concentrated into Ooty. So geographic diversification, how do you just diversify? And we've got some of the best villages in the world, just in terms of scenic beauty, environmental, stuff, community culture, everything. So there's to be a lot of destination marketing, new destinations have to be created. I'm personally on a quest to create my own little destination called Infinity Valley, right? It's just an idea. It's not a whole lot of money. It's more imagination. It's more storytelling to use that to bring in the kind of customer and diversify and create that spread of tourists, right? So I think it's a lot of entrepreneurs who need to come in, think like that, really use imagination to create that spread. And in terms of how we, and homestay owners literally create the infrastructure. We don't have leverage. We don't have lending from banks. We're not an industry, right? So we literally fend for ourselves. We do our own waste management, right? The local panchayats are not helping. We create our own water infrastructure. We create our own sustainability, rain harvesting, all of that, right? So we really just don't even dip into, if you do it nicely, outside of, the metropolitan or the municipal areas, literally you're creating everything for other people as a platform to come and sort of build an ecosystem around it, right? So in that way, I think it's a beautiful fit for where the Nilgiris is at, and enabled or not enabled, homestays are here to stay. And, that's the future. And big shout out to all the homestay operators who, go above and beyond to create some holistic and immersive experiences for the visitors.
Thank you. Thank you, Venky. I'm sure you'll have questions from the audience. We'll come back to you. Joining us next, all the way from Wayanad, is Aparna. Thank you, Aparna, for making the effort to come here today. Aparna is a passionate advocate for sustainable hospitality. She once completed a 2,000-kilometer solo bicycle tour to campaign for sustainable tourism. She's also an educator who founded the School of Sustainability and co-founded Build to Sustain, which I'm sure she'll tell us more about. And she runs an online platform called Igloo Pupa, which was incubated at IIM Bangalore's NSRCEL and was named one of India's top 100 business ideas to promote regenerative tourism. She's based in Wayanad, like I said, and she's also here to share a deeply personal experience living through the devastating Wayanad landslides and how it continues to affect her today. So, Aparna, did witnessing that disaster change how you think about tourism in a fragile landscape like Wayanad and in the Nilgiris? And what do you now consider non-negotiable when it comes to planning hospitality projects? Also, what would you like to see the hospitality sector in the Nilgiris Biosphere Reserve doing differently than it does today?
Thanks, Shobana, for the opportunity to come and meet you all. It's a pleasure, and there's a bit of pain also when I sit here on the stage today. To answer your question first, a non-negotiable factor, be it tourism or any industry for that matter, is to be a conscious citizen. Whether you're an entrepreneur or a policymaker or whatever it is, I think all the questions have the answers in them. The choice is yours. I'm, at least personally, I'm not here to prescribe any solution for the problems, because that's never going to happen. It's the choice of the masses that will decide how things work. So I'm sure we all agree that it's high time we think about the choices we make every minute, not long term, not short term, but everything. So now to answer the question about tourism, I think my choice or my point of view about tourism changed in 2018. I used to operate serviced villas in Wayanad and Calicut. I used to have a beach house and a small place in Wayanad also. And that was the point where my idea was selected and incubated in NSRCEL. And I was very happy to be back to campus after having 2 sons and doing all the kitchen and all that stuff. I was like, okay, I'm going to take a break and start studying again. And that also in a campus, beautiful campus like IIM Bangalore. But what I failed to understand, or what I kind of overlooked, was the damage the floods had done to my business, which I had painstakingly made from 2014. So I'm a victim as an entrepreneur. I'm a victim of floods from 2018. I lost my brand or whatever I had built, but I had started riding on my new venture. So the view was to encourage people to evaluate vacation rentals based on their sustainable practices. I'm sure most of us travel and we make our decisions based on the reviews we see online, right? Either a Google review or a booking.com or Make My Trip, whatever it is. So I built a platform where I could list properties which are socially responsible, which are small in the capacity is quite small, and all of that. I hope I've explained what it means to be a sustainable stay. So they would be serving organic food, they'll have local employment happening. So something which are low impact. The impact is going to be there for sure, whatever we do. Otherwise, we should sit and meditate. So when it's an industry, there is going to be an impact. So how are you seeing it? What is your choice as a traveler? So I was giving some options for people, and my team and I started building a metrics, basically a few questions that the rental owner would answer, and they would get a score for their sustainable practices. That was my initial idea that was selected and incubated and all that. Thanks to the floods in 2019, I couldn't revive my business, and then the COVID. So I was like, bye-bye. Then came Build to Sustain. That is what I'm focused right now. it's the same story. We have a sustainability index metrics. We call it SIM. We have SIM rated businesses. So they get an evaluation based on their resource management and people management. We have our gray areas. Like, it's very difficult to quantify social impact, but we are trying to find ways to do it. That's what I do. Now, on the personal note on which I'm here is that since childhood, I lived in the plains. I'm very new to Wayanad. I just came there in 2021. So all my evenings after school were spent watching the Western Ghats from our paddy fields. I used to come home, freshen up, have my little snack, and then rush to the field. I could see the mountains in the horizon. I used to dream of living in the mountain, being a mountain person, cold weather, sleeping early, and all of that. My ancestors also belonged to Wayanad. That brought me to Wayanad in 2021. And on the 29th of July, by then things were really worse. We were having very heavy rainfall, and I live on the slope of a small hill, which is now declared to be very vulnerable to landslides. So keeping my fingers crossed. I fell asleep because I was so tired of not sleeping for previous 3 nights. And on the 30th morning, I woke up by around 8 o'clock when my friend called me up and said, Didi, did you know that there has been a landslip? And already they've found around 10 to 15 dead bodies, and more people are missing. So that's how I woke up into a new reality of now Wayanad is, you search on Google, Wayanad is always connected, tagged to landslide, though the incident happened in a corner. Tourism has taken, as usual, the biggest hit. So it's a mess in my view. And as a citizen of Wayanad, that's how I'm here. I'm not here as an entrepreneur or a tourism advocate, nothing like that. I'm here because I used to visit Ooty from the age of 9 or something. I don't see Wayanad is any different from Ooty or vice versa. We are all sharing the same home. Just that probably you will have a little more beautiful home. I do admit that. So things are not all that pleasant, to be very frank. And it's high time every individual turns to be a climate scientist, in my opinion. Yeah.
And finally, let's talk about our built environment. I'm quoting Dr. Kumar a lot today, but like he said this morning, we have to accept that the NPR has people, right? It's the Wayanad Biosphere Reserve. And people need buildings. So we have with us today one of the most respected architects of the Nilgiris of the region, Mr. Vikram Devraj, who's from Kuno. With over 4 decades of professional experience, his work continues to shape the built environment of the Nilgiris. He designs buildings that respect the Nilgiris' slopes, heritage, and water flows rather than fighting against them. He's known for his thoughtful design approach and has worked extensively on both residential and institutional projects. And some of his portfolio includes some well-known schools such as the Laidlaw Memorial and the Riverside Public School, and also homes of several well-known personalities that have made the Nilgiris their second homes. And he's also known for this thoughtful renovation of colonial era homes and clubs in the Nilgiris, preserving their architectural character while incorporating modern functionality. So, Mr. Vikram, if you could rewrite, we were talking earlier about some things that you wish were different, so I'd love to hear about that. But if you could rewrite the building codes to protect the Nilgiris from haphazard development or even enforce existing codes, what's the first rule that you would add or existing rule that you would enforce more strictly? Also, what's the hardest part of convincing clients that building designed in harmony with the land is actually better, not just environmentally, but also economically, that it makes sense for them?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Shobana, for your kind words. Yes, I have been practicing for 40 years, but initially when I came in 83 or 84, it was difficult as an architect. And what are you doing in Kuno? These are the questions which were asked. And yeah, getting permissions were not too difficult. But today, what I feel and what most of you should be feeling is that sanctions don't come in. Sanctions come only when the rules are followed. Now, what are the rules? Where are the rules? These are the questions I would like to ask. I did lucky to listen to Rama Pandey just as I came in. I'm sure you must be doing a wonderful job with the draft plan which has come up. The way I recall, the plans which were there in the 60s and the 70s were basic plans were there. Yes, fine. But people would break rules, just build as they want. That's when the rot started, and that hasn't changed. I think 1992, when we had, I think Jayalalitha was, then she just came in as the chief minister. And she brought in a whole set of rules, which were, at the moment, when I saw that and read basically what they were supposed to do, I was very pleased with it. As an architect, I said, yes, they're covering a lot of ground here. But unfortunately, as you know how things go, 92, they came in with the rules. Till 96, hardly any sanctions came through. Your people couldn't understand, and there were too many guidelines of what people couldn't fill them up. And again, it went 96, the government changed, it was thrown out the window. And again, the same problem started. People who had the money would come, buy a plan, what do you want to build? From that, personally, I would tell the client, look, there are certain rules you have to follow. And it's not that for the rich or but not really that. Even I must say I'm a fourth generation Badaga. So when you go to a village and somebody wants a house for 1,500 square feet or 1,000 square feet, he's unable to get a sanction. He or she is unable to get a sanction. Now, this is what we've been facing, and even now it happens. Try and get a sanction, it has to go to the collector. It has to go to the portal. That hasn't changed at all. I know I sound very cynical on this. I don't know what the future is yours. I don't know where it's going to go. I'm sure work is being done on that. And I have been hearing something which are good. Hopefully it will be done. The other thing what I would like to touch upon is remote sensing. Remote sensing came in when I remember in Roorkee, it was in 1979-80. Even then we had remote sensing, it was already there. And not even, I don't know how much, if anything has been done in the Nilgiris. It is very, very much necessary now to know the strata, where it is, how the flow is. And in 79, we're talking about floods again. 79, we had major, call it cloudburst, floods or whatever. It was massive at that time. A lot of loss of life. And the GSI came out with a fairly 20, 30-page report on the sensitive areas. No, without remote sensing, where they found, soil is not okay. And I could name a few points, from Kunda to the Alada Valley to Selas, Kateri, right up to Ranibet. That was a major fault which was there. But now you find somebody has bought 100 acres and planning a massive thing in Selas area, which it is bound to happen, just a matter of time. But people don't look into these areas. You have to have proper planning. And of course, water, as you know, Nilgiris, as they say, is the overhead tank of the Nilgiris is the overhead tank for the Bhavani and the Moya rivers. But right now, we don't even look at those areas. And the villages, of course, they go back about 200-300 years. Villages always built not in the areas where the water flow was there. They would always be a little distant from, but you could go and get your water from there. But now you see that being blocked all over. People buy large tracts of land, fence it. If animals come in, just put in a solar fence. So where are we heading? I really don't know. So these are the few things I would say. Futures, all you people, and the youngsters. I think Senthil hit on that, and even Bharath. What is the next generation going to do? Yes, there are people who have, what do you do with an acre of land or 2 acres of land? You can build, you make a build up, make a thing, rent it out, yes, you get your money. But is that the way out? All of them have left. Many of them are abroad now. They have the money. But how can they come back? Even if they want to come back to agriculture, I'm glad that Bharath has taken that decision. You've come here to do that. You have a whole lot of people waiting there. You'll have to guide them. And with the reports coming in, or the draft plan is still coming. The last I heard about it was 3 years ago, but nothing has come so far. I only hope something better happens, Shobana. That's it. Optimistic always is, but still, in a cynical sense. But I know it's not right. But yes, this is okay. No. I'll say yes. A lot can be done. But then you have to the planning committee, whether it's the DTCP or basically the DTCP, I think you're addressing it to them. They must come back and talk to the people who have been in the Nilgiris. And say, these are the yes, no, and you have to have a proper, as they say, there are certain no zones. You must be very clear about that. People, you see a lot of realistic people coming in. They see Nilgiris is the last bastion, whatever you call it, of any hillside I've seen. I've been to Shimla, I've been to Mussoorie, though we went to all this, it's all gone. Recently, I was in Bhutan. When I see Bhutan, it's a lovely thing what they're trying to do. But then they have the same problem of the youngsters. What do the youngsters do? They want to get out.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Vikram. Thank you for your insights. And thank you to all our panelists also for your thoughtful perspectives.
Thank you, sir. That was very encouraging and welcoming. We would definitely like to put our views forward, say where it is really possible. Let's be practical. It's not possible not for totally to be, say, no construction. It's difficult, impossible. So we'll have to choose areas. I know FSI will be the next thing, but when you just look at what is the rules as they stay, is a 7-meter height. Now you look at any building in Ooty and Coonoor, right around the municipal office, you see everything is about above 7 meters, 9 meters. Violations are there. But which are the areas which can be protected now at this stage? That's my question. And what is done, it's very difficult. I do agree. But what can we save? That will be the next step.
I think I'll just add on to that and answer one question which came up earlier related to homestays, right? So homestays are getting a bad reputation, right? But ideally, the bad actors, any business that's got a lot of money, will have bad actors. So really, the violators need to be sort of framed. The laws need to be framed. So that cannot be associated with the homestay business, right? So as a business, it's a good business. It's got good social impact, local employment, all of that. But of course, there are a bunch of bad actors that needs to be weeded out, which needs to be, formalized, and the enforcement authorities need to do their job, right? And in fact, on that note, so the Nilgiris District Bed and Breakfast Association, we actually don't allow operators who are not legally classified. So unless you can show proof of authenticity or validation, you're not a member.
Yeah, I just want to add one more thing. You said forest department, other people, and the department, government thing. But are we ready? Those who are having land holding above 3 acres or 5 acres or whatever lands, are we ready to give it to organic people? at a lower lease amount. Because nowadays, people are leasing it out to people, those who are not belong to Nilgiris. People are coming from, other from the plains and, different places. And they're just really killing the lands. They're ruining the land. They have no connection with the land. They are just minting money. As he said, carrots, cabbage. So that's the only thing. Are we ready to convert our own lands? Those who are having lands, can we convert these lands into organic? By, there are a lot of people are interested. The youngsters are interested. Somebody said youngsters are migrating. They're just going and working in the engineering. They have done a lot of education, and they're just working in the plains. The textiles and small showrooms. They're working for a meager amount. So, are we ready to engage these youngsters in our organic movement over here?